So I grew up in suburban New York and wanted to move to Boston to get away from the family, just to be far enough away to be on my own and be independent. And I decided to go to BU because I was a kid that was in New York City all the time. I really was a city dweller, loved the culture. I was a jazz listener and would be at the Museum of Modern Art studying photography and the International Center of Photography. And I really loved art and music, and I was sort of a jazz snob. And I come to Boston and brought all my jazz records. And one night I wandered down the street to Kenmore Square to the Rat. And I think it was a battle of the bands. And this new music really blew my mind. It really intrigued me. And, this punk band La Peste on stage singing the song, You're Better Off Dead, it really felt authentic. It really, in a way, it felt like jazz because it had an energy and originality to it that was just so unique.
So I decided to move to Boston to become a piano tuner. And I saw this flyer and it said, movies, girls, La Peste, human sexual response, mass art. Now, I didn't know which were the bands, which were the movies. Was it a sex show? Was it an art show? All I knew was the punk lettering. I had to go see the show. It was just this whole crazed thing where you could be an artist and express yourself any way you wanted, and people actually showed up. And this didn't happen in Ann Arbor, where I'd been living in the 70s.
It wasn't political, it was artistic. It was an artistic play on rock and roll. The fact that you could simplify everything and do it yourself and write a song.
Punk rock was special because it gave everybody a chance to play music, no matter if you've ever played an instrument before or if you were new. You could go up there, express yourself, be on stage, really get some angst and aggression out. It did not isolate, it did not discriminate, and without the punk rock movement, many people who we are now our legends or broke ground would never have had a chance to do that. And so I feel that it was not only a lifestyle, but a total rebellion of playing music like every generation has. Ours just became physical, social, musical. True punks lived the lifestyle. We were not weekend punk rockers. This is what we did 24/7. We had our friends that were weekend punk rockers, but we would just call them posers. But anyway, I needed a home, and punk rock music gave me that home. I had friends that were squatting in Alphabet City, which would be avenues A, B, C, and D. And I ended up in a bombed out building, and I was still a teenager, and there was a sink in the middle of the kitchen. There was no heat or hot water. There were holes in the floor because we were not technically supposed to be there. And I had a fire escape, which I thought was the best place in the world. It's like I had the best balcony overlooking the city. I'd watch the heroin den people. And if they yelled, "The man is open," you could go in and get your heroin. If they yelled, "The man is closed," that was your signal that not cool to go in, or the police were nearby. That was all part of the lifestyle.
Boston was a hotbed of cocaine and sex. It was. Everybody was running around doing coke, partying, seeing bands, and really getting along with each other. Everyone got along, all the bands pretty much, I thought.
And it was a sort of a tradition. If you found a club that would book you and it was successful, you would tell the club owner, "You've got to book La Peste," or, another band. So it was really about bringing others in, working together, and creating this great scene. So we were all great friends, I guess, is the what I'm saying. And so having a party with 200 people or 300 people was pretty easy.
So there was just such a community of people who appreciated each other's music, whether it was like theirs or not. But if you played an instrument and you knew some people and probably had some drugs, you had a lot of friends.
We had a value system between us that we cared for anyone in need, and we took from each according to their ability to give back to us. And music was a very big part of it. We played everywhere. There were a lot more clubs at the time, and it wasn't a money thing. It was just a good feel. It was a family thing, and we liked that.
It was really such a community of like acceptance. I felt like I fit in, and I brought human sexual response people over to my mom's house.
I remember sitting at the Rathskeller one night with my friend Nancy Pants. And so we're at the bar drinking, and I'm just happy to be with her. And these guys come in and they're hitting on her. And she's like spitting on them and telling them to fuck off. And the bartender, Mike, carried a bat behind the bar if anyone caused any trouble. And he said, whatever you do, just don't turn around. And I'm thinking, it must be getting ugly behind me. I'm just going to get up and leave. And I turn around and I get clocked by one of these guys. I never even saw the punch. And I'm laying on the floor at the Rat. And these floors, this is like the dirtiest, smelliest old beer rugs. And friends like drag me upstairs because I'm like semi-unconscious at that point, and they get me in a cab, and I go to the emergency room, and I'm just like, who were these guys and what happened? And I said, tell me something good, doc. And doctor said, well, I studied plastic surgery for 6 months.
It was rebel music. It was dangerous. And that's what attracted me to it. And that's what attracted me to these bands. They were dangerous. They were different. I went to see the Plasmatic at the Rat, and I watched this band play, and I go, God, I really started to hate them. I was really saying, they're awful, they're dreadful. God, and I realized, I paused and I said, wait a minute. They can get that kind of response out of me? My God, I embraced them. I said, whoa, she got me good. She got me great. She really did. So we became really good friends. I mean, she came to the radio station. We did photographs with him. She's smashing TVs, and they made me turn my whole mind around. And that's what great music does.
When Johnny Lydon came down, Public Image, this is a little later in that whole evolution, but it was, obviously, this is Johnny Rotten was coming to the station, and he was with this Public Image crew, and couldn't have been bigger. It was like as big a celebrity as you could have. Beyonce wouldn't have been bigger in that place than having Johnny Rotten, and so he was like, so it was him with the 3 other guys from Public Image, or the 2 other guys from Public Image, and he was a total ass. I would ask him a question, he wouldn't answer it. He got up and roamed around. I asked him how he was. He was like, I don't know, he was a total asshole. Snarling and being a total jerk. The moment it was over, and we turned off the microphone, and it was time to go, he comes up to me, and instead of being this hunched over, snarling guy that he was, he stood up straight, looked me straight in the eyes, shook my hand with a stiff handshake, and said, that was terrific. How many people listen to your station?
Ramones did their very first radio interview with me at WTBS. All 4 of them came down. And the listeners, of course, wanted to speak with Joey, and they wanted to speak with Dee Dee, but Tommy and Johnny tried to do all the talking. They were absolutely adorable. Talking Heads came down when there were only 3 members. Jerry Harrison hadn't even joined the band at that point. And I finally got to interview The Clash. They played the Orpheum Theater. I was on 10 to 2. The Clash come up. Now, at this point, they're pretty drunk. Because they've played, they had a killer show, they played, and they're the guest DJs, so they start pulling out records, and they're playing Okie from Muskogee, and they're taking calls from the listeners, and one listener says, you guys are pretty good, but you're nothing like Elvis Costello, and they start swearing at each other. Well, you cunt, what do you think this is? Fuck you, and they're yelling at each other, and they're screaming over the airwaves, and they're pulling songs out, and finally the interview is just about ready to end. Their last song is YMCA. So the Clash leave the station singing YMCA. It's a legendary interview that you can actually find somewhere on the internet.
And the big song on the radio is Every Day is Halloween by Ministry. This band looks set to make it. So there I am at Spit, sitting upstairs with Al Jorgensen. Yes, the lead singer. And Al is not happy. Al, what's wrong? He's one of those guys that even if you throw money at him, he's still depressed. Al's not happy because everyone's dancing to his music. Everyone loves his music. Everyone loves everything the Ministry's doing, except Al. Al wants to be an artiste. Al wants to make industrial music. Al does not want the trappings of success. Come on, Al. Give it up. What is wrong with you? You're going to make a lot of money and you can play whatever you want to at home. Al Jorgensen that night, he took that early success, threw it out the window so that he could make great music, and came up with the Ministry we know now.
You photographed David Bowie, and during the Serious Moonlight Tour, 1983, this was the first time that I had the opportunity to meet my hero, my inspiration. And we see the limousine that he drove up in. And at that time, David was traveling with Bianca Jagger. So Bradley and I get into the limousine, and we notice that David Bowie smokes Marlboros. And he only smoked about half the Marlboro cigarette. So we took a number of these butts. So we go backstage, we get to meet David Bowie for the first time, we're so happy. And Bradley gives him my umbrella. He says, it's raining out there, you need an umbrella. And he says, here, take Oedipus's umbrella, and gives it to David Bowie, like David really needs my umbrella. Later on, we're broadcasting live, and we're freaked out that we met David Bowie. I mean, we're screaming in the mic, we met David Bowie, it was so cool, we got David Bowie's cigarette butts. And so we watch the concert, and we go back to the radio station, and we take the cigarette butts, and we smoke one of the butts on the air, because this butt had David Bowie's DNA on it.
What the heck, you?
What was great about the LRC and TBS in general was that all these artists would come down. All the local bands were down there, and Adam Ant, and it was like a cavalcade of who was who, and they'd come in and they'd play songs, and sometimes they'd show up uninvited. But mostly it was just a matter of talking to them the night of the show and saying, "Can you come on? Can you wake up before noon and come down to MBR or TBS and say hello?" It was such a great opportunity to capture a perfect moment in musical history that won't be replicated.
You don't have anything against me, do you?